All right, so we're going to continue our journey, Backdoor Revolution. It's Ashley, Keller Williams Real Estate, Everett. Okay, so we're into chapter 4, all right? And we're talking about, the author's going to go into cost and management of the development. Now, the key things that I took from this, believe it or not, there were like sort of like 3 or 4 little takeaways. The one thing I want to remind you of is this book was written in 2018. So his data... he has in here like some graphs that show data up to 2013. So, right, it's 2024. So this data is already like 10 years old. Okay. So, and I'm sure if we went and like captured the new data, we would see that the price is higher. Okay. All right. So the one thing that I thought was really cool that he did, I think, to kind of simplify things, is he basically said that, by definition, for example, an ADU must contain a kitchen. All right. So kitchens are in a sense a fixed cost, right? So, bringing a sewer line is like a fixed cost. You're going to need water. You're going to need electrical connection. You're going to need all these utility connections. You're going to need your kitchen and your bathroom or bathrooms. All right. And they're just going to cost an amount, right? So like, maybe a kitchen costs $25,000 and maybe each bathroom is $15,000. All right. So that's just kind of what it is straight across. It doesn't matter what the square footage is. And so in your mind, you have to remember this, that your per square foot cost on something smaller is going to be higher. Your per square foot cost on something smaller is going to be higher because you've got these things like the kitchen, the bathroom, the utilities that all cost a certain amount, no matter how big it is. Okay. Like, here's the thing that he goes into and talks about, which was really cool, is he talks about how a lot of times people determine the cost of new construction based on like a per square foot cost. And the way that contractors have actually profited and made money is that they'll add square footage, right? Like you can think about this, and I think you'll understand the logic of this. You can make bedrooms bigger, right? You could take a bedroom and you could be like, okay, I'm going to increase the bedroom by 50%. So the bedroom was 12 by 10, and you're going to make it twice as 1.5 times bigger. All right. It doesn't cost much to do that, right? Like it's just the materials. All right. But if you have to add a kitchen or you have to add a bathroom or whatever, it's significant. All right. And so, or like someone's like, oh, I'm just going to put a bonus room above a garage. Putting the bonus room up there, if it has no plumbing, if it has no, it just has like a couple electrical outlets or whatever, it doesn't cost very much to add. Okay. It doesn't cost very much to add. So your per square foot cost on something smaller is going to be higher, relatively speaking, because there's just these fixed costs in there. All right. So I don't want to belabor the point. I think you guys are following me, because every ADU has to have electrical. Every ADU has to have sewer. So just because it's smaller doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be cheaper. Okay, that is what I would conclude with that, all right? So he goes into the different options, and all these options are viable here in the city of Everett. You could do a detached new construction ADU. You could have an ADU where you convert your basement into an ADU, or you could have an ADU on a different level. Like, we have a lot of kind of 2-story or 1.5-story homes here in the area. And you could easily, in a lot of these, there's a way to have a set of stairs that goes up, and you could have the ADU above the house. Okay. Or you could convert a garage. So you're not using the garage, you're going to do that. One of the things that I do remember him mentioning is that a lot of people think like, okay, if I convert my garage, I might have some cost savings as opposed to just doing new construction. The thing that you have to keep in mind is we have a lot of old housing stock in parts of Everett, for example, and a lot of those garages are really old, and they are probably not to the standard or in code of today that would be required to actually do the conversion, right? Like the foundation might not be correct. The foundation might not be big enough. And so what ends up happening is because you have to take it all out, basically it's now gone to new construction, except you now also have the fee of demoing out the old garage. Okay. And I think that's very common. There's not many garages that I've seen where I thought you could save the garage. It looked like, no, that garage is going to have to basically be scraped, and then you'd have to basically build fresh and build a new one. A really cool table that he has in here that I think would maybe help if you're going to try to do this on your own is he kind of has an itemized line by line of each and every single item. Now, it really depends on your contractor. I know that contractors don't typically, I mean, it depends on the person, give you like a line by line like this. They're kind of like, build an ADU, 200,000. You know, they just throw a number on it, okay? So what you want to do is though you want to have some line by line information, especially if you want to be able to like control the costs and understand what everything is going to run you. The other thing to keep in mind about the conversion, sorry to circle back to that. So we're talking about garage conversions and converting existing spaces is, especially if it's old, it just might not be to code, right? Like the windows might not be the right size. The staircases might not be the right size. Here, for example, you have to add egress to windows, right? You have to have a way, like if you do a basement conversion. So you have to keep in mind that there may be some additional costs. It's not just like, okay, let me just throw the kitchen in there, put the bathroom, and it's ready to go. You'll just have these additional costs. You want to make sure, especially if you're creating a living space, that it's safe, right? You know, if you're going to rent it out, you want to like limit your exposure. You want to limit liability, right? You want to make sure that the space is safe and to code so that someone living down there, if there's a fire or an emergency or whatever, they're able to get out of there. And if an emergency, people can get to them. Okay. You know, so it's really important to make sure that you're, observing those codes and doing that. Okay. The other cost that he talks about the possibility of like being your own contractor. And he says that he thinks that if you manage as the contractor your own ADU, you might be able to save like 15 to 25%. I do think that that's true. But, you know, what's the trade-off right here, right? Like he basically talks about if you do it yourself, right? Because you have to take up, you know, usually you're working a full-time job or whatever. You have to take time off, all this other stuff, right? It ends up taking you much longer. So instead of the build being done in like, say, like 4 to 6 months, it maybe takes you 1 to 2 years. All right. And so you have to sort of decide like, you know, what parts of it do you want to manage? What parts of it do you understand? He kind of gives some guidance on, like, maybe what you do is you have a contractor, you know, get the outer shell done if you're doing a new construction, right? I mean, so I think that there's definitely options, right? There's definitely contractors or people that you can bring in that would, you know, do different pieces while you handle other parts of it. So I think that that's possible to do, you know, just find the right person. And, you know, just as a, if you're in this phase and you're starting to interview contractors and all that stuff, make sure you look them up. Look them up on Google, look up their Better Business Bureau, look everywhere. Make sure you get good references from other people and make sure that they're a reputable contractor. Okay. All right. So he talks a lot about finishes, right? Like, I don't know, you know, how much research you've done. But if you're already here and you've done research, a lot of people will be like, well, you'll ask them, hey, well, what's the price per square foot on this? Or what will it cost me to build this? They all go back to, oh, well, it depends on finishes. Okay. Well, you know, I feel like that's, you know, it's kind of a bit of a lazy answer. But it does depend on finishes. One of the things that he mentions is, you know, if you're able to, you know, you might be able to do some work and find like discounted windows or discounted cabinet sets, right? So there's like different shops and stuff like that that you can go to, and you might be able to pick up a set of cabinets that would fit for your space. A little bit of it depends on like how custom is your space, you know, like how particular are you as well, right? Like if you have a particular way that you want it to be, it may be that, you know, it's just not gonna, you know, you're not gonna be able to go and get like, pick up a cabinet set that's used and paint it and use it, right? But that option does exist. So you could do that. You could pick up a set of cabinets. You could go in there, you get like a used bathtub, for example, you know, those different items so that you can help reduce your cost on it, okay? So, I mean, that is basically that chapter in a nutshell, okay? And he does have some numbers in here for what approximately the cost. Like he has like, you know, new construction being about $300 a square foot. You know, I've heard some numbers along that line, but I think that those people are underestimating what it will actually cost. Okay. So I'm excited. The next chapter is design principles. I mean, I feel like this is where everybody gets really excited, right? Like, oh, I'm going to put a skylight in, or, you know, all these different things. I want the staircase. I want an island. I want blah, 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 blah. I want French doors to go out to a backyard. I want a garden level, la, 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 la. You know, I think this is kind of like the exciting things where people can see it. All right. You know, it's less exciting thinking about where's that sewer line going to go. you know. So I'm excited to continue. Just a reminder, I do have open houses tomorrow, Sunday, March 17th. Okay, tomorrow. Both properties have ADU potential, so I will be getting live and walking through those and showing like, hey, this is where you could do an ADU. Hey, this is what you could do here. And so we'll talk that out. If you have any questions, please, you could leave comments down below. You could send me a message. Here to help. Enjoy. I'll see you again on the next one.